Hi, I'm Maureen, and I'm a cataloger here at the Milford Public Library. And I'm actually reviewing a couple of books today by authors that I found to be interesting, and I wanted to know a little bit more about their work. The first author I chose was Colleen Hoover, who has become very popular in the past couple of years. I had not even heard of her before a year ago, and now she seems to be just all over the place. So I thought, well, I'd like to read some of her material. First of all, a little bit about her. I wanted to find out a little bit about what she got her started. And she actually started writing several years ago and had written some teen fiction books. And what actually kicked her career off in high gear was during the COVID pandemic, and people were at home, and of course reading became quite popular, or even more so at that time. And then she really took off with TikTok with the teens. And so her first book that really got her on the bestseller list was Slammed, which was one of her teen books. Her first bestseller book was It Ends With Us. And actually, here at the library, our copy is currently out. We do have it on audiobook, so I did want to show that. But we also have it in print. It's just out so often that we can't keep it here at the library. And as a matter of fact, she's one of those authors that have been so popular that we have actually ordered a couple of each title for our collection, and they are constantly out. So this is the book that became a bestseller and it continues to be. And she also has a sequel to that called It Starts With Us. And again, this is a book that is real popular right now too. Personally, I haven't read these books. I'm a little bit more of a mystery person, and but her romance books are very popular. But then she kind of changed things up a little bit, and she came out with the book Verity. And this came a little bit more to the kind of genre that I enjoy. It is more or less like a gothic romance mystery. So I wanted to kind of read this book because it kind of fell into what I like. And I also wanted to check out this author who seems to be just everywhere right now. So anyway, the book Verity, her lead character in the book, her name is Lowen, and she's actually a writer. And but she's kind of a good writer, but has fallen kind of to the point of her books are not being sold that much. She's not as popular, and so she's kind of struggling. And so she gets approached by a gentleman named Jeremy Crawford, and his wife, whose name is Verity, is a very popular writer. However, she's had an accident, and the series that she's currently working on, she is unable to finish. And so Lowen's writing apparently is very similar to Verity, so Jeremy hires her to finish the series of books that his wife had been writing. And so she takes the job, and she actually moves to their home so that she can kind of get to know the author that she's writing for. And then also she absolutely has an attraction, of course, to Jeremy. But she moves there also because she wants to get a feel for what it is she's going to be finishing. While she's doing her research there, she happens to go into the study where Verity's books that she's written are, and she comes across, while she's researching those books, she comes across a autobiography that Verity had been working on before her accident. And so she begins to read that, and turns out there's some pretty big secrets that Verity has kept, and it puts a quandary into Lowen's feelings of, should I approach her husband and let him know some of these secrets that she's got? Or does she keep her mouth shut and just kind of continue to work on this series of books? So it takes you into that, what do I do? And so as the book goes on, of course, a lot of twists and turns happen. And Lowen decides in the end that she can no longer keep these secrets that Verity has kept from her husband, because of course she's in love with him and she wants him to know the truth. So she kind of tells, and then it's kind of what happens next. And without giving away anything towards the ending, I think you'll find it very interesting ending, and it doesn't end quite like you think it's going to. So I suggest that you read it. It's a very good read, and if you like romance and mystery, this would be an excellent book to read. A little different from the rest of her books, but it's also on the bestseller list, and I think you'd enjoy it. So I certainly suggest that book. Then another author I got really interested in and have read her book is Ashley Flowers. And like I said before, I'm kind of a mystery reader myself, but I also love true crime. And Ashley Flowers is the author that I'm talking about, and she's actually a podcaster. Now, I've never listened to podcasts before, and I really wasn't so much interested in them, but I am, like I said, a true crime person. I'm one of these that watches Dateline and 2020 and 48 Hours and all of those. I always found them interesting, and so I like to read about true crime. Well, a couple of years ago, I was going on a girls' weekend with my two daughters, my grown daughters. And when we were driving, my one daughter said, it was maybe a couple-hour drive to where we were going, and she said, well, Mom, do you ever listen to a podcast by this Ashley Flowers? And I said, no, and really, okay, so we'll listen to that. And she turned it on, and I got completely hooked, because Ashley Flowers, who is also a girl from Indiana, has her own podcast. Matter of fact, she owns a production company. And now she's written a book, and this is her first novel. It's called All Good People Here. And what's really interesting about this book is if you're from around the Milford area and around the northeastern part of Indiana, you will know a lot about the towns that this takes place in. And it is, like I said, her first book that she's written, first novel. It is based on a journalist, and this journalist's name is Margot. And Margot, she works in Indianapolis, and then she has an uncle who lives in Wakarusa. And as it turns out, she is kind of struggling right now, too, with wanting to stay in Indianapolis and do her job. But her uncle, who is in failing health, she decides that she needs to come back to Wakarusa and stay with him and take care of him. And so when she does, she comes back. It's her hometown where she grew up as a little girl. And then when she's there, it turns out there is a little girl who comes up missing from Napanee. And I found what was so interesting is I know all these towns. I visit these towns all the time. And it turns out that brings back memories to her about when she was a little girl. She lived across the street from another little girl her age. They were about 6 years old. And that little girl's name was January, and she was murdered. And the thing of it is, it's never been solved. And that got Margot wondering about this little girl's missing from Napanee. Could there be a connection in some way? And so the story goes on about how she puts her detective skills together, and she hunts, tries to find if there's any connection between the two. and can she solve this murder that happened like 20 years ago? And so it goes into that. And I think what I found interesting was the way she writes is the way she does her podcast too. And it was really interesting how true crime it really sounded, even though it's a fiction book. It did really sound like, something she would talk about on her podcast. Without giving the ending to this one too, there's a lot of twists and turns in this book. And I think at the end, she does solve some things, but there's also lots of questions at the end. And it kind of leaves you thinking, well, what goes on from here? What is going to happen? And it's kind of like when you listen to a real true crime, it's kind of the questions we have there too. So without giving this book away, I certainly suggest reading it. If you're from this area, you will find some of the towns it mentions besides Wakarusa. It talks about some other towns in the area, and so it's all familiar to you. Again, she's an Indiana author. She's a podcaster. This is her first book. I'm sure she'll probably come up with more. Again, it's on the bestseller list, so I would certainly recommend it to our readers. Just keep on reading. Every week we put out new books here at the library, new fiction books for the adults. Also, we have a lot of good nonfiction books about Indiana that we're putting out right now, and a lot of books written by Indiana authors right now we're actually adding to our collection. So certainly suggest that you come by the library and check those out. Also, our teen books, we're putting out lots of new teen books right now, children's books, and just several good things. We're getting ready for our spring books that are coming out. So please keep on reading. Please stop by the library. Call us if you are looking for something special you want to read. We're always here, and we want to help. So thank you for listening. Hope you enjoy the books. Please stop by the library and check out some of these. We'll have them here for you. Thank you.